Chapter 6, Final Grade Calculation Setup. It's several weeks into the school year, and you're really enjoying teaching biology at Apple Grove High. You're getting used to working with PowerTeacher Gradebook, but as you're entering the scores for your AP students' weekly lab work assignments, you notice that the final grades don't look right. You remember that the final grade is being calculated as total points. However, you want tests to equal 30% of students' final grades, quizzes equal to 20%, projects equal to 20%, lab work equal to 20%, and homework equal to 10%. Is there a way to set up final grade calculations to match your plan? Yes, there is. Let's take a look. Calculating a final grade is a lot like mixing up a batch of solution for a lab experiment. When you make a batch of something, you may not talk about cups, tablespoons, or the like, but rather you use parts. For example, the formula you'd use to make the staining solution for a DNA analysis experiment calls for 4 parts ethanol, 5 parts water, and 1 part glacial acetic acid. Using this formula, and by keeping the proportions the same, you can make a big batch or a smaller one. Similarly, how final grades are calculated is determined by a formula that uses proportions. Let's find out how to mix up a batch of final grades. You can set up unique final grade calculation methods for each course you teach. The 3 types of calculation methods you can use are total points, term weights, and category weights. For example, you can use the total points method to calculate final grades for your general biology students, and use the category weights method for your AP students. We'll explore each method as we set up the final grade calculation for AP Biology. Select your AP Biology class to get started. Then, click the Grade Setup tab. Click Calculations. Then click the arrow to the right of the reporting term name, such as S1, to open the lower pane. Now the Grade Setup window is divided into 2 panes. The upper pane shows icons representing the years and terms as they were set up by your system administrator. Just like you can set up a unique final grade calculation for each class, you can also use a different final grade calculation method for each term. Keep in mind, if you change the final grade calculation setup for one term, you may need to change the calculation for each subsequent term if you want the calculations to match across terms. Whatever methods you choose, make sure to record them and let parents and students know how grades are calculated. Otherwise, they'll have lots of questions. For now, let's concentrate on the Semester 1 term. The lower pane of the Grade Setup window displays the types of final grade calculation methods you can use, plus the number of low scores you want to leave out of the calculation. The final grade calculation method you are currently using for your AP class for the Semester 1 term is the default method, total points. The first step of changing the final grade calculation method is to decide which method to use: total points, term weights, or category weights. Let's look at each one in more detail. The total points option is the most straightforward method of calculating the final grade for the term. This is what you're using for your general biology classes. The gradebook will calculate a student's grade based upon how many points were accumulated, divided by how many points are possible. Looking at it in the mixing analogy, if a student earns 1,240 points out of a possible 1,500, PowerTeacher Gradebook calculates an 83% for that student. Then the gradebook refers to the grade scale to determine what the letter grade equivalent is. For example, if the grade scale cutoff percent was 80% to get a B- and 83% to get a B, in this case, the student would receive a B grade. Not bad. When choosing to calculate final grades by total points, you can also choose to refine grades by discarding a number of low scores. Some teachers choose the discard low scores strategy so that only the grades that are most representative of a student's typical performance are counted. When an assignment is discarded, the points the student earned are subtracted from his or her personal total, and the number of points the assignment is worth is subtracted from the total points possible. So in our example, the number of points put into the final grade mixer for this student is reduced to 1,200, and the number of total points possible for that student is also reduced to 1,400. When final grades are calculated this time, the student gets an 86%. Not quite high enough for a B+, assuming the cutoff percentage is set at 87%. The third way to calculate the final grade is by category weights. Using this method, you can set up the weights for each category according to your personal plan or school requirements. For your AP Biology class, you wanted tests to account for 30% of your students' final grade, quizzes, lab work, and projects to account for 20% each, and homework to account for 10%. Another way you could consider weights is to think in terms of the grading formula: 3 parts test, 2 parts quiz, 2 parts project, 2 parts lab work, and 1 part homework. Now we're going to guide you through an activity. Follow along and try each step as it's described. When you select category weights for the first time, no categories will be listed. Click Add Category at the bottom left of the pane to set up the categories for weighting. When the Select Categories window opens, select the categories to be weighted. Check Homework. Check Lab Work. Check Project. Check Quiz. Check Test. Then click OK. Now all of the selected categories are entered into the table. Next, click in the Weight column to enter a weight for each category. Enter weights as percentages. Type 10 in the Homework Weight column. Then press Enter. Type 20 in the Lab Work Weight column. Then press Enter. Type 20 in the Project Weight column. Then press Enter. Type 20 in the Quiz column. Then press Enter. And type 30 in the Test column. Then press Enter. Notice that as you enter the category weights, the percentage column is updated. Or you could just enter how many parts you need of each category in the weight column. 1 for homework, 2 for lab work, 2 for project, 2 for quiz, and 3 for test. If you want to employ the discard low scores strategy, enter the number of low scores to drop from each category in the Drop Low column. In this case, use the default value of 0. When you have finished weighting the categories, click Save. This concludes the guided activity. Your AP Students Semester 1 final grades will now be calculated based on the category weights you defined.